Not that long ago, I created a build log using a pair of Radeon R9 Nano graphics cards in the Thermaltake Core V21 Micro ATX case. The plan was to make a compact yet extremely powerful 4K capable gaming rig that could be lugged around to LAN parties. For the most part, I was happy with the build. When scaling well, the Crossfire Nanos packed a serious punch. The Core V21 ended up being quite a bit bigger than I was expecting, and its box-like shape actually makes it quite awkward to carry. So then back to the drawing board. My search has brought me to the reasonably new Fractal Design Define Nano S, a mini ITX case with a conservative 26.8 litre capacity. Complementing this build is Fractal Design's own Edison M 550 watt power supply and Kelvin S24 liquid cooler. At the heart of this build would be Gigabyte's impressive little Z170N-WIFI motherboard, which would be paired with a Core i5 6600K processor and a 16GB Kingston DDR4 memory kit. Finally, capping it all off will be the Gigabyte GTX 1080 G1 gaming graphics card. The Fractal Design Nano S is available with or without a window, and it seems to be paying a very small premium for the windowed version that we have on hand. Currently, it's selling for a very reasonable $70 or 125 Australian. The case measures 203mm wide, 330mm tall, 400mm deep, and tips the scales at 4.6 kilograms, which isn't bad for a mostly steel construction. Externally, we find a simple yet elegant design, and I like that. Not every gaming build has to look like it's straight out of a Michael Bay movie. The solid front panel might be constructed from plastic, but it's been given a premium brushed aluminium look. Removing the brushed plastic cover exposes a large dust filter complete with angular vents. This is a hinged panel that snaps into place using high-powered magnets. Removing it reveals a front-mounted dynamic GP14 140mm intake fan. The left and right sides of the front panel are ventilated, allowing the front intake fan or fans to draw in plenty of cool air. The top of the front panel module features the I/O panel, and here users will find a pair of USB 3 ports, dual audio jacks along with a nice big circular power button, and a much smaller reset button. On top, there's a removable plastic panel known as the ModuVent, which features press clips on the underside, and I actually prefer this to magnets as it isn't constantly falling off when you move the case around. Around the back, we see that the power supply is mounted in the bottom of the case, and above that, we have a mounting point for a 120mm fan, which is occupied out of the box. Underneath, there are 4 rubberized circular feet, along with a full-length removable dust filter, which clips into place very well. Inside, the Define Nano S looks fairly basic, but there are a few clever things going on in here. There's a number of pre-drilled holes and slots for intelligently mounting SSDs and hard drives, along with pumps and reservoirs. Inside you'll find mounting positions for 2 3.5-inch or 2.5-inch drives, along with another 2 dedicated for 2.5-inch drives. In total, there are 6 fan positions, though it is unlikely to use them all. Still, on top of the front and rear pre-installed fans, it is possible to install an additional front-mounted intake fan, 2 top-mounted fans, and a bottom-mounted fan. The Define Nano S is the perfect case for this build as it's fully compatible with high-end, full-size components such as the GTX 1080. I should be able to get away with turning the fan speed up a little to reduce the chances of thermal throttling, thanks to Fractal Design's use of sound dampening materials too. Speaking of which, CPU coolers as tall as 160mm are supported, while power supplies can also measure 160mm deep. As for the graphics card, there's 315mm worth of headroom, even with the front intake fans installed. That said, if you install a front-mounted radiator like I plan to, that measurement will be reduced by the width of the radiator. Alternatively, if this is a problem, radiators as large as 240mm can be mounted in the top panel. Because the graphics card does face onto the power supply, Fractal Design doesn't recommend using cards wider than 2 slots. Around the back, behind the motherboard tray, there's between 17 and 35mm of clearance. Routing cables and Velcro straps have been included for easy cable management. So the first item to go inside the Define Nano S is the nifty little Gigabyte Z170N-WIFI, which has been pre-installed with a 6600K processor and Kingston DDR4 memory. You might be wondering why I chose this mini ITX motherboard. The primary reason is down to cost. At just $135 US or 210 Aussie, it's by far the best value Z170 mini ITX motherboard available right now. Out of the box, it supports USB Type-C, dual gigabit LAN, 802.11ac wireless, plus Bluetooth 4.2, a PCIe 3.0x4 M2 connector supporting up to 32 gigabits per second throughput for high-speed NVMe, SSDs, and dual SATA Express connectors. Gigabyte has squeezed in a rather impressive audio solution using the Realtek ARC1150 codec, boasting 115 decibels SNR HD audio with a built-in amplifier and high-quality capacitors, all of which has been placed on an isolated section of the PCB featuring fancy trace path lighting. At first glance, the board looks to be lacking M2 support. However, flipping it over reveals Gigabyte has been quite clever by placing it on the bare underside of the board. Although the board only supports a 4-pin EPS power connector, Gigabyte has still included a 5-phase power regulation system, so this shouldn't inhibit those overclocks too much. Cooling the 6600K is the Fractal Design Kelvin S24, an all-in-one liquid cooler featuring a dual 120mm radiator, though there are 120mm and 360mm radiator versions as well. This product has been developed in cooperation with AlphaCool and makes use of enthusiast-grade components, and the price does reflect this. Priced at $120 or 190 AUD, this is a premium product, so we're expecting to see low temperatures on the Core i5 processor. Unlike most all-in-one liquid coolers, this isn't a closed-loop design and instead can be expanded upon. Users can in fact open it up to get the full benefits of custom water cooling. This means the ability to add any components you want to the loop, such as an additional water block for the GPU as an example. Once you discover things such as the full copper water block, you begin to understand why the Kelvin S24 is so expensive. Fractal Design also tells us that the pump features a ceramic bearing, while the radiator has an innovative construction of copper and nylon, where the nylon is placed on the outer parts where heat transfer doesn't take place. Installation of the Kelvin S24 is about as easy as it gets. Supplied in the package are custom mounting brackets for AMD and Intel platforms. Naturally, we installed the Intel mounts. The block is secured to the CPU using 4 spring-loaded screws which attach to a plastic backplate. For this build, I really wanted to make sure we went with a conservative power supply, so no 1000 watt plus models then. In my recent in-depth GTX 1080 review, I found at no point did the system consume over 280 watts, and that included a Core i7 6700K processor locked to 4.5 GHz. Therefore, the 550-watt Edison M provides plenty of headroom for this build even if we overclock the CPU and GPU. Priced at just $90 or 120 Aussie, the Fractal Design Edison M 550W is a cost-effective option that will ensure sufficient power delivery with excellent reliability. Making the price even more impressive is the fact that this is an 80+ gold certified power supply backed by a 5-year warranty. Also used are Japanese electrolytic capacitors rated at 105 degrees Celsius. The modular design makes the Edison M a perfect choice for this build, and while not fully modular, I've never really seen the point of being able to remove the essential power cables. Keeping things cool and quiet is a temperature-controlled 120mm fan with quiet, long-life FDB bearings. Capping this all off is the Gigabyte GTX 1080 G1 gaming graphics card, providing the best single card performance available today. If you haven't already checked out how the G1 gaming performs, be sure to take a look at my review for the performance breakdown. Before throwing all the case panels back on, I installed a pair of Samsung SSD 850 Pro 2TB SSDs for good measure. Well, there you have it. I hope you enjoyed this Fractal Design inspired build. The Define Nano S will no doubt become another huge hit for the company and become the go-to case for enthusiasts looking to build a portable powerhouse. The Define Nano S, Kelvin S24 and Edison M 550W are all perfect examples of why Fractal Design has become such a loved brand by enthusiasts. Rather than rely on gimmicks, the focus is clearly on quality and features you actually need and want. Not just that, but despite offering premium products, you aren't paying over-exuberant prices. The Define Nano S in particular is a great buy at $70 or 125 Aussie. Anyway, enough from me. I want to hear what you guys think of the Fractal Design Define Nano S and the build in general. Let me know in the comments. I'm your host Matt as always, and I'll see you guys next time. YouTubers like